Hello Anglophonians. When we look back at these old comics, we sometimes get into some sort of area that is not so good in retrospect, and this is what happens this time. Remember, the comics of Spirou we are talking about in this series are at the moment at a point where times were different, and so were the artists, although some of the artists later regretted what they had done this time. This story will have some racial stereotypes, I must warn you. I try to be as covering as I can be and not trying to reproduce too many stereotypes. But those were the days back then. Yeah. Are these the good old times that some people want to get back? Really? This? Okay. I don't like it. But let's take a very careful look at the Kingdom of Rakiki.
Okay, then again, explicitly as a content warning. The story we are looking at today contains depictions of people who belong to African and Asian ethnicities. Unfortunately, as it was the spirit of the 1940s, these are pretty racist stereotypes. I will try to use little of these depictions, but they too are part of Spirou's legacy. The story, The Kingdom of Rakiki, began in the Spirou magazine in December 1941 and ended in May 1942. Rob Well once again ensured that the stories about Spirou flow seamlessly into one another. In the last story, Spirou had acquired a farm. As the story progressed, he found a box on the property containing a letter from the farm's previous owner. As it turns out, the owner didn't just disappear, but made his way to the Congo to look for a rare animal. He has been missing ever since. Spirou gives the farm animals to an animal care station. Then he sets off for the Congo, accompanied by his squirrel Spip and a trained monkey. Since the next passenger ship that sails to the Congo doesn't leave for another 6 months, Spirou decides to hire as a kitchen assistant on another ship. He manages to convince an old captain to take him, the monkey and Spip with him. He becomes an assistant to a Chinese cook and soon notices that strange things are happening on board. In one of the lifeboats, he finds a young Congolese man named Rakiki, who is traveling as a stowaway. Rakiki tells him that his father was the king of a tribe. When his father died, Rakiki was still too young to take over the office, so his uncle Rakuku did so. But this uncle had no plans to give up his place for Rakiki when he was old enough. Therefore, he had Rakiki brought to Europe, where he was arrested and imprisoned in Antwerp, Belgium. Rakiki managed to escape and is now on his way back to Africa to claim his kingdom. Spirou assures Rakiki of his support. At the same time, Spirou notices that the Chinese chef and the captain also each have a secret. The captain hides a man in a secret room in his cabin. This man has a map of the Kingdom of Rakiki. As it turns out, there's a large gold deposit in this kingdom that the captain and the stranger want to get their hands on. Spirou and Rakiki must escape the ship and try to reach the kingdom before the captain and his mysterious guest. So here we are again, the Congo and the colonial history of Belgium. The map of the continent of Africa was largely not drawn by the continent's inhabitants, but is the result of Europe's colonial efforts since the Middle Ages. We, and especially the inhabitants of Africa, are still feeling the effects today. Tintin also had adventures in the Congo, which still was a colony of Belgium at the time and remained so until 1960. The Democratic Republic of Congo now lies on the territory of the former Belgian colony. The name of the area is derived from the Congo River, which flows through Central Africa. The area was long inhabited by various tribes of Pygmies and Bantu. The societies developed into large kingdoms, the largest being the Kingdom of Congo, which formed in the 14th century. In the 15th century, Portuguese sailors led by Diogo Cao explored the area of the mouth of the Congo and established diplomatic relations with the Congo Empire in 1491. King Nzinga Nkuvu, who bore the title Mvene Congo, ruler of the Congo, sent emissaries to Lisbon. A short phase of almost equal treatment began between the Congo and Portugal. Unfortunately, with the contacts also began the trade in slaves, which made a few people in the port cities very rich. However, the slave traders took advantage of internal conflicts in the kingdom, demanding more people to bring to the colonies in America. At the beginning of the 18th century, the Congo Empire had almost completely collapsed. The last Portuguese left in 1866. Enter Henry Morton Stanley. He came from difficult backgrounds, but James Gordon Bennett Jr., the editor of the New York Herald, recognized Stanley's talent as a reporter from crisis areas. After some reports, which Bennett was very enthusiastic about, he gave Stanley, who was then 28 years old, the task of finding the missing missionary David Livingstone. Livingstone was traveling in the Congo area. It only took Stanley a year to find the researcher, who was at the end of his tether at the time. Through the search and the fact that he accompanied Livingstone for a while, Stanley got his own impression of the area and suggested to the authorities of his home country, Great Britain, that the Congo be incorporated into the British colonial empire. But Stanley was a bastard in the eyes of his compatriots, a child born out of wedlock, and he did not have a good reputation in upper circles. The British also wanted to take more care of the sources of the Nile, so he was declined. But the person who was very enthusiastic about the idea was the then Belgian King Leopold II. The young monarch was eager to acquire colonies. Several attempts to obtain such had already failed. On June 10, 1878, he met Stanley and the two struck a deal. Stanley was supposed to acquire the Congo for the king. Leopold would make sure that everything was formally in order. Stanley collected bills of sale for the land around the Congo River. The tribal princes and chiefs who signed the paper in an unknown language probably didn't know what they were doing. A clause in the contracts stated that not only the land, but also the residents' labor would become Leopold's property. In 1885, following the Congo Conference, Leopold took over the Congo as his private property. The economic exploitation of the country led to such cruel excesses that they caused international outrage in 1908 as the so-called Congo atrocities and forced Leopold to hand over the Congo as a normal colony to the Belgian state. Although conditions improved somewhat, the Congo and its population were still exploited by the authoritarian colonial power Belgium. The country remained in this situation until the end of the colonial period in 1960. Now we have to ask the question, is there a difference between the Tintin adventure Tintin in the Congo and Spirou's adventure The Kingdom of Rakiki? Definitely yes. Not only was Tintin in the Congo published around 10 years earlier, the intention behind it was different. Hergé had clearly been commissioned by his publisher Norbert Vallée to produce propaganda that would show Belgian children the progress of so-called civilization in an underdeveloped country like the Congo. The children should learn that it was supposedly better for the people of the Congo to live under the rule of the colonial rulers who had brought them civilization. Vallée wanted the Belgian children to know that Africans were helpless without the Europeans. Rob Wells' The Kingdom of Rakiki is more of an adventure story that even deals with local aspects in a positive way, such as that Rakiki is the rightful heir to the throne and Spirou wants to help him regain this throne. The fact that the Europeans in the story, in the form of the captain and his accomplice, want to exploit the raw materials of Rakiki's kingdom also gives the story a different approach. But of course, there's no hiding the fact that the story is written in a very Eurocentric way. The Congolese need Spirou's help to resolve their situation, and the non-European characters are cartoonishly exaggerated, be it the thick lips of the Africans or the protruding teeth of the Asians. It would take another 50 years before the story, The Black Ray, critically addressed stereotypes and prejudices. And as before, this story flows seamlessly into the next, and Spirou remains on the African continent.
Well, there you have it. The Kingdom of Rakiki. Yes. What a story. And I'm afraid, concerning Spirou, at this time in the Spirou history, it doesn't get better. But we will keep that for another time. Until then, surround yourself with nice people, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you